So I'm in this unique position to commercialize the entire technology, which can basically apply to almost any enterprise. And it's a team of researchers and myself and one other lady. We are building the whole GTM muscle together. There's basically just two people plus
Cool.
founders. And so we need to make sure that the entire partnership, sales, marketing, everything is happening. So without AI, I don't think we would have survived. So I'm happy to share basically my AI native approach to GTM as much as it is.
GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It is I, Jonathan Carter. Some people call me Coach K, and this is the GTM AI Podcast. I am really excited because in this third season, we get to deep dive into people's workflows, and I've been blessed and honored to have so many good people join me, and today is no exception because I have the one and only Julia MacDonald, who is an amazing individual, super kind, as I like to call it, wicked smart, and just really excited to get all of her AI genius out in the podcast. So first off, Julia, how are you?
I'm great, Jonathan. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you.
Yeah, of course. I'm like, when we had our first chat, we've known each other for a while through the AI Circle, and you're the Miami chair of AI Circle, which is great. We both know Albert and I think I was one of the first ones. I know you were too, because you know Albert for a while. So
Yeah.
I've known of you for a long time. We finally had a chance to connect. And I was just like, man, I just love Julia so much. She's just so nice. So I'm just so glad you wanted to come hang out with me for a second. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jonathan.
Of
It's an
course.
honor.
Tell me this, what people always love to get the goods of you. So you are the Senior Vice President of GTM and AI Solutions at Haize Labs. Let's start from the top and tell me you first. Tell us the non-resume version of who is Julia. Tell us more about you, and we'll kind of dig into what Haize Labs is and what you're going to show us today.
Yeah, happy to. So, Jonathan, I'm just generally a person who is very curious and fascinated by everything new. So here I am talking to you, big admirer of everything you do. My entire story career was always kind of doing things that are cutting edge or fascinating. Out of MBA, I joined this startup which was doing CRISPR-Cas9 therapy, so changing human genes, one of the first startups that came out of Jennifer Doudna's lab. And I basically tracked them in a Berkeley cafeteria. I was like, you don't know me, I'm not a scientist, but can I do anything?
Yeah.
2 years of my life were like basically them in the lab and me handling operations. And for me, the AI world and everything is going around us is very similar. I just wanted to be essentially as cutting edge as possible, working with researchers, influencing the cutting edge AI, which is why I ended up at Haize Labs. And yeah, that's basically what I love doing.
I love it. So tell me about Haize Labs. What do you do there?
Well, Haize Labs is very unique. We essentially solve the reliability problem. So if you think about all of our agents that are in the wild, right, most of them are essentially good enough or mostly fine agents. They're mostly fine until they're not, and they're doing something that you didn't tell them to. And that works fine for personal agents, OpenClaw, I don't know. But as soon as you have an enterprise agent, or worse, you have an regulated enterprise agent, you can't have a situation where your agent tells customer A, oh, I can't give you a discount, customer B, or maybe I can give you a discount, right? That's an extremely, non-trivially hard problem to solve. And that's essentially what Haize is able to solve. And to my knowledge, is the only technology in the market that is able to solve it.
That's cool. I love it. And you are also, because you're a curious person like I am, I know you're geeking out to technologies and all that kind of stuff. So I know today's going to be a little bit, I wouldn't say different, unique, because obviously your tech is unique, but tell us more like what, if someone listened to the entire podcast, like what wisdom are they going to glean from you today? What are they going to get out of it?
Yeah. So I'm in this unique position to commercialize the entire technology, which can basically apply to almost any enterprise. And it's a team of researchers and myself and one other lady. We are building the whole GTM muscle together. There's basically just two people plus founders. And so we need to make sure that the entire partnership, sales, marketing, everything is happening. So without AI, I don't think we would have survived. So I'm happy to share basically my AI native approach to GTM as much as it is. I'm also super excited to learn from you, because I think there's folks that are way more advanced in this, and I'm just learning every day.
I love it. Today, it's all about you, my dear. I'm ready to geek out. So where do you
Awesome.
want to start? Let's dig in. What do you want to do?
Yeah, so let's start in talking about the GTM stuff. I think that's most interesting for your audience. One thing that is unique about us is that we can bring these 99% reliable agents to different sizes of customers, also to different
I was going to ask you, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Do you guys mostly work with larger 2,000 plus employee size, or like what's your sweet spot for your customers?
So that's pretty interesting, right? We are mostly enterprise, but at the same time, we're able to build solutions for, say, small low agency, because our team can literally build amazing agents in one day. So there's no reason
Nice.
to let the self-serve completely go untapped. So we're actually thinking, okay, how can I GTM a large enterprise, medium and small with two
Oh,
people?
I love it.
It seems impossible, right? So
It does seem impossible. How do you do that?
we're in the process, but the way we're thinking about it is there's certain GTM flows that help. So for large enterprise, I think a lot of folks have talked about it. You want to, first and foremost, you want to scale your outreach. That is more or less traditional. Right. You have tools, you have your Dripify campaigns, etc. What the AI part of that is just connecting the flow from who your ideal leads are, just using AI agents to find more targeted, better leads, immediately find their LinkedIns, immediately put them into a Dripify motion. So there's nothing radically new, it's just more convenient. And we are able to do that faster. So say that we talk with a company, I don't know, a vet clinic, and they say, I have this particular pain point. We're able to find more companies like that pretty fast, put them in a Dripify with a very specific pain point, and it just accelerates it.
How's the response rate and conversions with that?
So I think the response rate is not dramatically better, but we are closing more people faster than what I've seen in past startups.
Nice. I love it.
More volume. So I'm still looking for that magical copy or outreach. I can't say, hey, I've cold outreach.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. But because it's just a faster turnaround, we're just getting more people. Other things that I'm doing is just pre and post conversation, but making myself more smarter than I used to be 6 months ago, because I'm generating very tailored briefs that it took me a few tries to kind of get there, which essentially marry Haize's capabilities to the use cases and pain points of that enterprise. Also, it considers the competitors. It also considers all of these different things. And it gives me a call structure. Okay, these guys have announced that. They've been talking about this. Their competitors have also announced that. So here's the 3 things where it probably hurts right now. And given your guys' focus, you should talk about this to AI use cases.
I love it. Let's dig in. Let's do it. So I'm curious, can you, for people who, I know you said that the outreach and that kind of stuff is not a new use case, but I feel like you're doing it in a different way than most people are. So what is it you're doing that you would say is different?
I don't know if it's very different. It's just faster. So we come up with a hypothesis. So first and foremost, we come up with a hypothesis of who needs high complexity, 99% reliable AI most. So for instance, banks or insurance companies. Our hypothesis is more almost mathematical. We want it to satisfy certain criteria. We want a process. We want a use case that is very cumbersome, document heavy, which cannot be outsourced to junior employee or a very cheap resource. So it can be document heavy, but somebody can do it for $5 an hour. I'm not going to sell an enterprise solution. On the other hand, think about paralegals or nurses or claims adjusters. Those people are hard to find, and there's war for these people out there. And so we have this type of kind of criteria, and it needs to be ideally a use case that has a right and wrong solution that people care about, that is sufficiently well defined. Where if you have a workflow where it's just 50% off one day and you just don't notice, you don't care, then you're probably not going to pay 100,000 plus for it to be solved. So we have a bunch of these hypotheses, and then we generate a bunch of use cases from that hypothesis. Then we generate a bunch of companies that fall under that use case. And then we basically generate a list of executives. So each of these steps is like self-evident, The changes that used to take a whole sales enablement SDR team to do it, right?
Right.
Generate list of executives, enrich those LinkedIns through either a combination of GPT or also Clay, and put them in the Dripify.
You're basically saying using Clay, and then
Clay,
obviously you give it context. Right?
First, there's a lot of AI steps, like going from the hypothesis. Then we're generating a list of use cases that satisfy that hypothesis.
And that's in OpenAI and Gemini? What are you doing?
That's in our internal Notion hub.
Okay.
So we have also an Excel master list. We will transport it to, but it's just like a giant list with 30 columns that says, okay, for instance, immigration law it's a high pain point. You can't outsource it to cheaper. So it's very document heavy. There's high stakes. Things are changing. You have a lot of external documentation that's coming. We don't have to talk about it. Everyone's aware of how things are with immigration. So basically, I popped it up as, hey, this is really good use case. From there, we've just taken a bunch of lists with immigration company names. From there, we generate executive names, and that can be done also through Clay itself or OpenAI. And you can just combine those. And then you put it in a Dripify. In our case, it's LinkedIn, mostly LinkedIn outreach. We don't do anything, how shall I say, where people just like blast 17 messages and keep annoying you. So it's a very targeted, gentle, high touch message. Okay, we are able to automate claims adjustments for auto insurance.
You're talking about this, right? Dripify?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I would send something very short saying, okay, for example, for auto insurance, we might be able to automate the claims adjustment process going from 30, 60 days down to 2-3 days. Yeah. Would you be open? And we would love to talk to you about it. And just
nice,
very kind of gentle like that.
I have some questions.
Yeah. Please.
So this begins with a hypothesis and use cases. Is those things, like, I know you, like Haize Labs is really about helping other customers do this. Like you're doing this for your own prospecting for Haize Labs, right? So when you do this, are you basing the hypothesis based on what customers have told you and then you create that there? Where does that first step come from? And then my second question is, why use Dripify over Clay for outreach? Because Clay does outreach as well. So just curious, let's start with the first one. How do you start the hypothesis of where you begin? And how do you know if it's even working?
So good, two really great questions, Jonathan. I think first, we have a very good understanding of where Gen AI is at and what makes a good Gen AI use case, but not necessarily in a traditional sense where, for instance, I'll give you an example. Lawyers will take a GPT and wrap their legal letters in generate them through GPT with particular template. We're not talking about that. We're talking about very complex use cases where your AI agent will be present in a conversation with a client, say immigration law, will then collect their evidence, will check it against requirements for this particular type of visa, will find the gaps, will communicate back saying, sorry, can we provide this particular gaps? And we'll basically do all of these things for it. So we're talking about this type of a holistic agent. And I think it's just understanding where these agents fit, when we cannot sell. So if it's automating 30 minutes of work that costs $10, I'm not going to sell that. And also, basically, we do not believe, and this is like a personal belief of the company, that we should be building an AI lawyer, an AI doctor, like a lot of companies do. And it's totally valid. I just think it will take us a while to get there. So we're trying to limit the scope to where there's still a accountability level by the humans. So that the internal company profile and our kind of point of view on AI agents is created the initial criteria for the hypothesis. How we know it works, that comes much later. So when we're starting to have these conversations, for instance, with lawyers, we're also running ads that is a little bit of this SMB motion that we're doing. It's a totally different thing. As anyone else, we're just kind of seeing what is happening. In some cases, I know that the pain is there, and I still don't know if there is enough willingness to change, for instance.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some industries are very legacy and
Do you like to do, I'm curious, this is my marketing side coming out. This is what I would do. I'm just curious what you think about this. Would you take your hypothesis and then obviously track by different modes, like same industry, and you say you test out either different use cases or different messaging, and then track and see, is this one converting or optimizing, or is the quality? Because like I know this with the sales cycle, sometimes you don't know this, but ideally you'd be able to track from inception to close and figure out which customers brings in the right ICP with the best LTV value or best lifetime value or the best ACV, whatever the case is. Because it could be that one brings in a lot of volume for leads, but then none of them close. So it's kind of a false signal. It's like, it's good because you get traction, but then nothing closes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So do you do that kind of testing that's that robust for your own company?
Not yet. So I see that it says an excellent point. I see this as a bit of a gap, mostly because we are moving so fast. We're just not pausing to track. Also, a lot of our GTM motions are very different. So for instance, for lawyers, we have some huge companies that are talking to us about custom solution. And then we have ads where people just have natural tracking points, conversions, whatever.
Right.
Both are valid. I think it would be nice to pause and create a meta agent to see across all these different lanes. I'll probably make it a priority at some point, but right now it's just every free moment is just more GTM basically.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, this whole thing this is what's the most fascinating part about GTM for me is having multi-agents, having this connection, because it does, to your point, it takes time to build a good agent to do this cross-analysis type thing. But in my experience, like it's well worth the time, because then as you start to automatically optimize, it makes it so everything you're doing is way better, because the agent could go back and look at the messages and the analytics and say, hey, we need to tweak this word or this message or this industry or whatever, and start to reevaluate itself. That's where it gets really exciting. But it's not an easy thing to set up. It takes time to connect all the dots and make sure the agent's working. So I don't blame you for that.
No, but one thing I want to highlight for the SMB sector, for ads driven or other, for everything that can be self-serve, that we are building for sure. It's just we're not building something that will cross yet into the enterprise sector, because that's just a very
it's harder
nature.
Yeah, enterprise is a different beast. It's not the same. So, well, tell me about, you're going to show me some stuff with Haize Labs. Is that right? Can we get a little bit? It's okay. Yeah,
absolutely. It's very different.
Let's
open up the correct tab. Or let me just see. Give me 1 second. I think it's I have a bit more too much stuff open.
Totally fine. I can edit all this out, so don't stress about it.
Very cool. Yeah, so I think folks really love to see the Haize magic. This is part of the reason, a big part of the reason why we can do 99% reliable agents. Maybe before I show you the demo, I can explain how the solution works.
Please, yes, please.
Yeah, so as I said, the biggest issue with agents, one of the biggest ones, is that they are unreliable. It's not just that they are non-deterministic, you can control that with temperature and stuff. It's also with slight variations of input. If I ask, say, for a discount in slightly different ways than another customer, you can actually end up with LLM generations in a very different place. And if it's an open conversation, you end up in a completely different place. So for an enterprise to put a chatbot there that answers each client in a completely different way, and promises different stuff, that's the reliability issue, what I'm talking about. So how do you fix that? So there is essentially 3 components. First, we train what are called supervisor models. So a lot of companies use LLMs as a judge, which is just another LLM with a prompt that analyzes some other LLM's output. That is basically governed by how people understand the rubric, what the LLM as a judge needs to use. What we do instead is we will create what we call a code of conduct. That is a very comprehensive set of rules for enterprise. I'll show you an example. So here's a code of conduct for a bank that needed to do a voice debt collection agent. And in that use case, you can imagine, is very regulatory heavy. It's governed by Consumer Financial Protection Agency. You cannot call people if they ask that to not call them. You cannot talk to them if they're not authenticated. There's a bunch of things if you are a voice bot that is debt collection voice bot. A very hard use case, very hard use case. You need to make it 99% reliable. So this code of conduct is literally all of these regulations that the agent cannot do. So each of these is an instance. We would basically try to break the model against it. The list goes on. This is a unique code of conduct for every single use case that we would ever train the model on. It gets collected through interviews. It gets collected through SOP statements of the company, through some of the past agent traces, stuff like that. Once we have that, we train those supervisor models on the code of conduct, literally fine-tuning its parameters. Now you have not just an LLM as a judge, but you have actual models fine-tuned for your code of conduct. So next comes this red teaming is where the company's origins were. So red teaming traditionally, and this is also what's in the platform for demo purposes, you kind of attack the model to try to break it, make it unsafe for a general thing like build me a bomb, right? But in this case, what it's doing is it's trying to red team it against the code of conduct. So it's trying to break it to do all these violations, right? And that's unique because we have all these algorithms. These were used to red team OpenAI. These were used to red team Anthropic. They essentially do not stop until they break the model. Once they break the model against all these violations, you can then say, oh, and they're judged by the supervisors. The supervisors will say, oh, this is like a big violation, whatever. I'll show it in a second. Then you can fine tune the underlying model to stop doing all these violations. And you'll have 10,000 of those red teaming outcomes. And then this entire thing continues in an iterative way until you get the 99% reliable agent. Does that make sense? So I'm just say tests. I think I've done a bunch of those. I have here a model, behavior, a bunch of models that speaks like a pirate. I don't know if I can find it. There's a bunch of fun stuff. Very simple. So bunch of judges, those are not fine-tuned for any specific company. They're just general. I'm going to just select this particular code of conduct. And it just asks me, okay, it shows me the tokens, what I want to do, how long I want to red team. And so we're going to see in a minute. For now, it's just starting. And each of these is a behavior that was in the code of conduct that we're trying to make the model essentially violate that behavior.
Does this use then does your AI automatically mess with like temperature and then the prompt itself to make sure that is it tweaking and iterating as it goes? So like it's going, let's move the temperature a little bit this way and the prompt like this. And does it do that automatically?
Yes, it generates prompts. I'm not exactly sure about the temperature. It generates red teaming prompts that are basically completely wildly different. They can be different language, they can be different. And the most important part is it doesn't stop. It will keep trying to see how the model responds. It can be multi-turn too. It can start innocently and then lead the model to answer incorrectly. And the main thing here is magnitude. So we'll see in a minute, it essentially goes exponential. And basically the impact that it has, like how quickly can you iterate with your... So
while you're running through this load, I'm curious, like in the example you just gave me where you're using agents to do prospecting, basically for you. Do you find that Haize Labs is doing things where you're critiquing those particular agents, or is it more like in the legal space or in the accounting space? You're kind of more, I won't say regulated, but more controlled industries. Is it more for that? So then, and they create agents for legal networks that has very fine-tuned controlled agents. Is that what it's for usually?
I mean, we build our agents that are, in a way that they're extremely reliable just because the team that is building it is the same team that built this. So they're already extraordinarily good agents. But mostly this is for use cases where this 99% reliability is important. So it is usually either external, or if it's internal, you can be in a bank, or if it's critical workflow, or it retrieves very critical information for high value engineering code that if you retrieve the wrong thing and the engineers don't catch it, it can it's not, I wouldn't over-engineer every single agent with particular harness like this, especially in a startup.
Would you see, or do you feel like there is go-to-market agents you would want to use something like this on? Because I don't know. I'm just curious. Do you ever see that happening? Or again, it leans this way. Tell me what you think. When would you want to use this for a go-to-market?
I think everything, if you are actually letting the agent communicate with the prospects,
Yeah.
then you really should have this type of reliability, because it can mess up,
Fascinating.
especially with enterprise level, C-level execs we're talking to. By the way, it has successfully, if you look here, that it has already successfully done a bunch of attacks. It has, at this point, sent 52
cool.
prompts, but will accelerate very rapidly. We can come here and start seeing what's happening. Here, essentially, the higher the number, the bigger the violation. You can see also, these are the initial prompts, is the user. The initial prompts are, they can be very different. Like you can see here emojis. If we wait, like we'll see things in different kind of languages. And we basically have here classical red teaming things, like you are role playing or pretend, and all these things that induce
Right.
the LLM to have this kind of wrong behavior. And what I can also show is, maybe I show like a previous opening. This one is at 50. So you can see like another one, I just let it run. It had 15,000 queries. And this probably will take about 5 minutes. So I don't want to, but you can see that it just keeps going, hundreds and hundreds of attacks. The magic here is when you have 15,000 queries and you then fine tune to improve on this number, and you keep running this test periodically with input from expert, you very quickly get to very quickly, depends on use case, but you do get to the 99% reliability.
You want to be fascinated by this, because I do prompt engineering for Momentum and a bunch of other companies. So I do this, a very slow version of it. And it's not like I'm trying to get an output from putting in a transcript and you have a call score of some kind.
Yeah.
And so I will test it just based on being a prompt engineer and do it the slow way, where I do prompt this, and what if I change this and that kind of stuff. But this is like beyond that. So I'm curious, do you find that this is, I know you're using it for agents, but I'm assuming this would work for like system prompts for different technologies to make sure it's running the right way, or whatever the case might be. Do you find that same application to be either system prompts for agents or system prompts for tech, or just in general? Or what do you think about that?
I don't know if, so we are essentially trying to elicit a violation from the agent. Once the agent violates whatever it is that you wanted to do, then I think it's the job of the client to figure out how to fix it. So usually it can be often that the system prompt needs to include some sort of harsher language or guardrails, or just a fine-tuning the model is often the outcome. But basically, the way to fix it, there's multiple ways, and also Haize can help it. But yeah, fixing the system prompt is one of the ways to sort of protect against it.
So for any go-to-market or even AI people listening to you, would you say, because you just said there's some things you don't need to use this for because it's overkill, right?
Yep.
But you just also said for something important, like talking to prospects, you want to use a tool like this. So is that your spectrum of when to use Haize or not? Is like saying the more important it is, the more accuracy you need to have, or the less hallucinations you want to have, then the more you need Haize Labs to correct that. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, by the way, we have a new solution that's basic. We call it lossless RAG. It's basically hallucination-free retrieval. We're going to put that in a blog as well. But so basically, to say very frankly, we're just going after accounts that have highest pain. So it just ends up being banks, insurance companies, healthcare, because I know for a fact in an insurance company, I can probably automate the work of 4 to 5 claim adjusters in some case, that 2-3 months of work. It's completely crazy. I'm learning about claims, and it's just crazy. Or for instance, in a bank, if I can improve the fraud detection or anti-money laundering, think about, for us, it's just basic math, like where it's the most interesting, lucrative markets. But then there's a lot of long tail use cases where I will probably get to it after a while. I don't have the manpower.
This is the low hanging fruit right now, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because I used to sell to banks, so they are extremely regulated, have so much governance, compliance, and security. It's like the hardest ones to sell to because of obvious reasons. It's not because the people are hard, it's just because they have to deal with all the regulations. So it makes sense that would be the way you want to go, so you can help protect them against all the things you have to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's just, I'm looking at it from the very, I'm not as smart as your team is. So I'm looking at it as a very simple prompt engineer training on agents and that kind of stuff. I'm just I'm working with AI every single day. all the time, but on the weekends, I'm always experimenting, saying, okay,
Yeah.
let's try this way the prompt or this temperature or this kind of thing and see what happens. So to me, I'm like, man, this could save me weekends of work of just trying to test everything out, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
this is cool. Julia, I just want to tell you thank you. This is great. Are you okay if I make sure your LinkedIn is in the show notes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
And then your website, what is your website?
HaizeLabs.com.
Okay. I'll make sure I have that on the website as well.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming if someone wants to have this lovely, beautiful thing, like I see all your logos on the website, which is freaking cool. You have a lot of really big logos.
Thank you.
The cool thing is you guys have a small team and you're very humble, but like every time you speak, Julia, I'm not kidding. I'm always like, oh, that's such a good idea. I love that. It's just,
Thank you.
Oozing this AI wisdom. I love it. So I just want to tell you, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan. It's really an honor to be here. Yeah.
My honor as well, my dear. I just want to tell you thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI Podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.